Good morning and welcome to this Higher Space hosted virtual meeting, which will take your morning, and thank you. You know, here we are on this forum talking about more technology, more virtual, more hybrid with our face-to-face meetings. And I'm saying, but you're doing this. You are ahead of us, aren't you? So there was a moment that you took that step, wasn't there, at CISCO? And not just because you're a technology company. So really just tell us a little bit about that positioning of your events piece.
Good. No, thank you for the compliment, which is great. I think, yeah, we have some of the technology to do this, of course. So that's a big advantage we have. So what can I say about that? I mean, if you look at it, we coming for our big conferences, let's say big internal sales conferences, for example, we did hybrid events already, 7, 8 years ago, let's say, and we have done it for, let's say, a couple of years. So that was bringing together, let's say, 20,000 people. Instead of, let's say, all going to Las Vegas, we actually centered hubs in the different countries, so then have virtual and also the people together in the office. So we had a lot of experience with that, and with live streaming, how you can make it interactive, how do you collaborate, how do you get people still motivated and all of that. So huge learnings there. Now, what we did do in the end was actually going back to a live event. And after we've done it for a few years, actually, we have gone back to a full-blown live event with 20,000 people in Las Vegas for the last couple of years on that one. So you see in this hybrid. Now, I think in the other conference that we have, we hardly do any conference of a decent size without any online components. I mean, that is for us natural, right? I mean, it's not only the combination of people at the event and people not at the event. You have a combination of the people at the event combined with what you can do digitally for them, and then the experience for the people that are not there, which is quite different, let's say, on that one. So that's kind of a journey. What we now see at CISCO is that, okay, everything becomes virtual in that transition period. I think when we come out of this, there will be definitely a new normal. For me, if I look at events or even the way of working, is like we will work together in a different way. There will be way more virtual meetings, let's say, on the platforms that we are using here, and people can collaborate from any place, anywhere around the world. Although I do think we will get into a kind of, instead of the 80-20 physical virtual, maybe it's a different balance, or people will look at things differently. A lot will be about innovation. But we see currently a proliferation of our seminars, virtual ones, let's say, which is not easy to manage on that one. And maybe the last thing that I want to say here is that also for all we are not just switching our live event to, let's say, virtual. I think you always need to ask yourself 2 questions, and whatever it is, it's not just an event or any other marketing tactic. It's all about who is your audience and what do you want to achieve. If that is a virtual event, a physical event, or any other, let's say, marketing tactic, you always need to have that in mind. And maybe a virtual event is not the right tactic to achieve what you want to achieve. And that is always the first 2 questions that we always ask ourselves, whatever we embark on, let's say.
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the number of people who have come to us and said, well, we'll just take that event and make it a virtual event. And I
don't think it's the right solution.
Everybody's going like this. It's just not the same process, is it? It's not the same program. It's nothing. You can't do that, can you?
Yeah, totally. And also what we see at CISCO, and I'm not going to say it's a frustration or that, but we see now people also, everyone is at home. You don't have the commuting time, so people have way more time, right? So we see lots of initiatives from account people and things like that, collaborating with our partners, and they all want to do virtual events and seminars. If it's about training, enablement, they want to connect. In some countries, they have 2 webinars every day now. And if you would really look at that, is that right or not? And if you would really look at it, a lot of the things that all these people do, it probably has already been done. The content already exists in another country. So of course we are a big corporation, so we have that challenge, like how do you bring that together? So we will have a lot to learn in a very short time to actually what will be our event strategy moving forward. And we are thinking about an event strategy for, let's say, the next 6 to 9 months. Right. Where we are then probably thinking in 2021 that we probably can go again to the bigger physical events. Let's say that's the way our current thinking is.
Good, thank you. Let me take the same question to Emily. What's your advice to people who are saying, well, we used to have an annual general meeting face-to-face, we're just going to put it online?
So I would go back to the point of working out the purpose of your event. And what you're trying to achieve from that event, because whilst you can make a lot of events virtual, there are things that you will lose by making it virtual, and it's or can need to be adapted, and it's will you get the same benefits from being able to push it into a virtual event. I also think people do sometimes underestimate being able to move an event into a virtual setting, because whilst you still have similar planning for it, you also have different aspects that you need to take into consideration. And I think also one thing that sometimes puts people off moving it into virtual is the fact that it is then reliant on technology, which some people aren't as comfortable on. So I'd definitely say it's down to looking at the purpose of your event and is it worth moving it virtual.
So to get first, if somebody came to you and said, I need to do a piece of communication or messaging around such and such, what would you say that's just not going to be okay online? That has to be face-to-face.
I think face-to-face is a lot about the interactivity, the value that you have about communication. I think what you easily can do over, let's say, virtual events or webinars is, let's say, transferring information, transferring content. Let's say more, if you would look at in marketing tactics, more the top of the funnel, let's say, content that you do. Though I must say, and that was really the case in the past, virtual events were all about live streaming. That was it, right? If you look today at the format of this as well, the formats are evolving. Is this about polling comes in, you have multiple speakers, it goes fast, it keeps a little bit the interactivity, it needs to keep it interesting for people. So it's really evolving in that space as well there. I think you can do a lot of training online with people on that one. Opportunities, it really depends on what do you want to achieve and who is your audience for that.
Say, for example, for your sales team and your global sales team and the global sales kickoff meeting, for example, you wouldn't skip a face-to-face opportunity many times. There would be a cycle of face-to-face and virtual, you're saying, and that you think that...
Yeah, totally. Okay. It's a combination. And there, for example, we typically have our fiscal year runs is slightly different. We have our big sales kickoff in, let's say in August, the end of August. We have already decided to do that again, completely virtual on that one. So we stopped everything on that one to give us more planning time to do it properly, okay, to work on that engagement and all of that. Because again, also like Emily says, it's not because you do an event virtually. I mean, it probably needs even more planning than a physical event. You need to think about there are new ways of thinking. There's new information, you need to learn more. So to allow us to do that, let's say. But there are opportunities for salespeople, not even internal with the customers, to have a connection. But maybe it's more a meeting, let's say, that is happening online. But I think in the future, it continues to be a combination of virtual and physical, totally. I mean, do not underestimate, like Richard said, the power of live. Do not underestimate that. But if your, let's say, your physical event is purely a content, let's say, that you're sharing, okay, then I think you will disappear. You need to have a much broader event experience that is much more about experiential, about interactivity and all that, because all the other things you could do online.
Emily, the same question to you. What are the event types that you would not recommend to be virtual or hybrid?
I think So we've seen over the last few months, there's been some sporting events, for example, that have actually been done behind closed doors, and then they're streaming it out through television. So there are still options to be able to do that, but you then lose the aspect of getting the people together and having that whole experience. So I'd say a lot of the time you could probably make events virtual, but you will be risking losing certain elements. And is that worth it? Or are there alternative ways that you can actually bring those live elements into a virtual setting?
Lovely, thank you. Ed, let's just go back to you just as we prepare to close, and just to ask if there's questions from the forum, particularly for Gert and Emily.
Yeah, sure. So I think we as well as corporate planners, we've got a lot of venues watching today, and I think this is perhaps the most upvoted question we've seen all day, which is, if event organisers are moving to a more virtual world, what impact does this have on venues, and how can venues respond to it?
Okay, Gert, let's come to you. What, in your use of venues, is that materially changed by this crisis, or you do this virtual face-to-face, so you still use venues but in a different way?
That's a challenging question to look into, Leslie, that glass ball for the future on that one. I mean, what we see, we have cancelled quite a few of our events as well. And we must say that quite a lot of the venues and our partners have been collaborative in looking at solutions for that. Is it cancelling? Is it postponing? Is it making a new deal? Because we are all in the same boat on that one. So I think there is a kind of postponement and thing. Although I do think for venues, as soon as the gates are going open, we will have tons of physical events. People will be so pleased to be able to get out, let's say, to start traveling again, to meet on that one. So for example, in Belgium, if I hear some of my colleagues and that are now looking for a venue, let's say in October, it's a hard time to find a venue, because a lot of actually corporates have already booked them in anticipation, let's say, or even that postponement on that one. Now, that's what we see. How can venues, let's say, adapt them to the future? Yeah, it will be more about technology for sure. That integration, that is key. The combination of the physical and the online world. It's going to be about bandwidth, streaming. And don't forget as well, I mean, all these big conferences is a perfect opportunity, because you bring all your experts together from your partners, internal and all of that. So the opportunity to create content where you are at your physical event to be used post your event in all your other marketing activities is huge on that one. Okay, are these opportunities that venues can deliver? Can they do green screen rooms actually where people can do that very easily? Things like that. I'm just thinking out of the blue sky, but that could help. But we will come back. We will come back to venues. Physical events are not disappearing at all.
That's a very positive note. Thank you for that. But Emily, you're nodding. You agree with that. The last word to you on this session then, please.
I completely agree in terms of face-to-face events will come back, but I think people will also be looking to make sure that the technology is there in venues to be able to also add the live streaming element, because I think people will sort of begin to find that they're able to touch new people by doing virtual events, that they might also think, I don't want to lose that when we go back to face-to-face events. So it's making sure that the venues have the strong enough internet connections, the capabilities to integrate, being able to pick up sound in the room so people can hear it there, but also online. So I think it will become very technology driven going forward.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Look, that is a positive note to close on. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Gert. I thought that was very timely information that people will find useful sitting at home this morning. So let's just ask the question again on the poll. You know, for the people who are listening, and there is, you know, literally hundreds of people listening to us now this morning, will you be considering running virtual events? Maybe we should say more virtual events. So it's a yes, no, maybe multiple choice question. So please do fill in that poll so we know. There is light at the end of the tunnel, Richard, not a train coming towards us the other way, and that the event industry is an extraordinarily resilient group of people, and there will be good times ahead for all, including venues, moving forward as we navigate our way out of this situation. Thank you all very much indeed. Have a super rest of day. Take care, and we'll see you through another higher space opportunity very soon. Thanks a million.